Hi everybody, my name's Theresa. I'm a movement artist with the PACE Art Program in Lafayette, Louisiana. Today I've got a lesson for you about canyons. We're going to learn about what canyons are, how they're formed. We're also going to be learning about positive and negative space. We'll learn what that is and how we can use it in dance to create shapes. We're going to learn about something called erosion. We're even going to learn about ballet a little bit, and we're going to create some shapes thinking about positive and negative space to show what we learn about canyons. So we have a lot of fun things to do today. The only thing that you'll need is some space, so make sure that you have some space to move safely. All right, let's stand up and get our bodies ready to move with our warm-up. Okay, for our warm-up, we're going to start in something called first position. It's a position of our body that we use in ballet and other kinds of dance sometimes too. We'll make sure that our legs are turned out, my belly's pulled up high, my thighs are rotating outward, the top of my head is reaching up to the ceiling, I've got my arms en bas, nice and low, making a kind of an oval shape. Take a nice deep breath and you guys can just follow along with me while we warm up. Ready? Here we go. had fun with our warm-up. That was a really nice warm-up for me. You might already know this, but our warm-up was a ballet warm-up. So ballet is one kind of dance that people can do. I do ballet sometimes and I teach ballet sometimes, but there are lots of different kinds of dances that we can do. We call that styles of dances, different styles or different types of dance. So I chose ballet to do today, and because ballet can kind of help us understand shapes in movement art. Or it might be a better thing to say that shapes are really important in ballet. When you're doing the style of dance, the ballet style of dance, the kind of shapes that you make and the way that you make the shape is important, because there's a certain look that the body should look like and the lines should look like. I don't want to say your body should look like, but the kinds of lines and shapes that we're making. And it helps if you understand something called positive and negative space. So this is something that visual artists use, but movement artists and dance artists use it too. And I like to teach my students about positive and negative space, especially my ballet students, because it helps them understand ballet line and ballet technique. So let's learn a little bit about positive and negative space. Positive space means this space that your body in dance is occupying, okay? So if you're looking at a flat picture, and you guys are looking at a screen of me right now, I'll put my hand up this way, let's see my arm this way. So I'm making a shape with my arms. The space that my arms are taking up, that's the positive space. So all of this space, if we drew like a line around my elbow, around my hands this way, around my whole body, right? All the space that my body is taking up, that's called positive space. Can you guess what the negative space is? It's the space around. So when I make a shape with my body, I don't just make a shape where my body is, but I kind of create this shape or carve this space around my body, right? So when we're in ballet, for example, if we have our arms up high, and there are different ways to say, the way that I like to say is on O, and that means over, right? That means up high. So if I have my arms on O, you can see that they're creating a kind of oval shape. They're over my head, but also they're creating a kind of space around my head too. It looks kind of, I tell my students, kind of like a halo shape. Now, if I change the shape of my arms, how I'm holding them, that's the positive space, I also change the negative space too. So this wouldn't really be a shape on O that we would want. First of all, we've got some pointy elbows going here. This doesn't really look like an oval anymore. It maybe looks like that would be more like a diamond, right? So we also don't have that long oval around our head. So being able to see your positive space and the negative space can help you understand what a shape might look like if your dance teacher, your choreographer shows you a shape. It can help you understand how to make this shape just like they do. So here's another example. I have a picture here that I did for you guys. Now, this is a picture of me making a shape, and I was actually practicing some movement and working in my living room and dancing. And this is a still from a video. This is an image from a video I took. But in the picture, what I did is I colored in, I traced around my positive space orange and colored it in orange, and all the negative space around me is blue. So when we're creating shapes in movement art, we're not only creating shapes with our body, but we're also creating shapes with this space around it. So we're gonna practice and have some fun creating some positive and negative space shapes. Okay, let's get back on our feet and create some shapes. First, let's talk about what a shape is in movement art. In movement art, when we make a shape, we want to use our whole body. So that includes our arms, our head, our torso, and our legs. And when we're making a shape, we want our shape to be still, and we want to hold it nice and strong so we make sure that we're using lots of energy with our body. So there are different kinds of shapes, all kinds of different kinds of shapes that we could make. But let's think about making some shapes with positive space. So one kind that we could make would be an angular shape. That means our shapes look like lines that have angles. So I'm making an angular shape with my elbow right here, right? I've got one line here, one line here. It comes to a point, right? Might do a little thing going on there. I'll try an angular shape with my other arm, right? Okay, show how my legs could be angular. I want to use my torso. I want to use my head. Boom, we've got an angular shape. Another kind, right? But we can make all kinds of different, boom, angular shapes. Another kind that we could make would be a straight shape. So instead of having all of the points that an angle, like a triangle or a rectangle would have, we want to think about our lines being nice and straight. So let's see, let's take this leg in front. Oop, that looks more straight. Arms could be straight this way. Again, I got my torso, and let's take my focus. Sometimes it's harder to balance when you change your focus. There we go. There's a straight shape for you. Maybe you can create another kind of straight shape. There are lots of different ways we could do it, right? Here might be another straight shape. We've got twisted shapes, which are fun. Our body can twist like a movement, or they could kind of twist and wrap around when we're being still. So I could twist my arm in my socket that way. Could twist this way, yeah. Let's see if I twist my torso around, and I'm twisting my legs around, and my head's twisted around. Oh, gotta hold it still and strong. That's a twisted shape. So we're looking at the twist that the positive space is using, the space that my body is taking up. Just see another little twisted shape that way. Okay, there's another way to do it. We also have curved shapes. So when we're making our curved shapes, arms make curves very well, torsos make curves very well too, right? So we could curve our arms downward like this. I could curve my torso to the side, kind of got a curve going on there. Legs are harder to make look curvy because our knees pretty much look pointy, but if we bend just a little bit, they'll look a little more curvy. If we bend a lot, then it looks angular. Okay, so those are some different kinds of shapes that we can make using positive space. But let's think about the negative space. Remember, when we create a shape, we also create a shape with this space around our body. So we can do some closed shape spaces. If I talk about closed shape spaces, that's kind of like this negative space in here, right? So I'm making a triangle shape with my arm and the side of my torso. See if you could make a different triangle closed shape. Okay. So when we're looking at negative space, it's important to kind of almost like trace this space, the lines on the outside or the inside. So another way to do like a triangle shape might be like that. Yeah. Okay, what about a shape that's a closed shape that's oval? We made some of those already, right? So we had an oval shape like this, so you can kind of see. We call it a closed shape because, this also makes a negative space right there, negative space right there. Oh, we've got like a double, triple whammy. Woo, okay, calm it down, Theresa, calm it down. So when we say closed shape, like this would be a closed shape, and we can imagine the rest of the oval kind of coming up with through this space, right? But an open shape is where the lines don't meet, right? So this would be an open shape oval, right? So, it's kind of got like a curved space through it. So it does kind of have an oval, but it doesn't close all the way, right? Let's try a different oval. See if you got one. Okay, we can try a curved up this way. Okay, let's try an open angular shape. So we're looking at this space around, right? Okay, we might get an open angular shape. So here's an angle here, and I'm imagining I'm looking at this space right here, and I'm looking at this space right here, also makes an angle. There's another angle, this way or that way. Okay, so So that's some negative space that we can use. Okay, speaking of shapes, I want to show you some of the most beautiful shapes that we can find in nature, in my opinion anyway, and those are shapes of canyons. So I have a couple of pictures to look at, and while you guys are looking at the pictures, I'll tell you a bit about canyons. All right, so what a canyon is it is a deep gorge in the earth. And it usually, or sometimes, you can find a river flowing at the bottom of the canyon. So it's like a deep, kind of almost like a crack, but like way bigger than that. But it's not made from cracking. One of the most famous canyons that we have here in the United States is the Grand Canyon, and we'll take a look at that in a moment. It's very deep. But I want to tell you about how a canyon is created. So a canyon is created when water carves the space through rock very slowly. So a canyon actually starts out as a flat landscape, and then water carves through lots of time a big space out of rock. So it's kind of crazy to think about because water is so soft and rock is so hard, but over many, many years, canyons can be created. And we call, when water carries pieces of rock away, we call that erosion. So erosion is something that happens when water carries pieces of rock or land or earth from one place to another place. So for the Grand Canyon, for canyons, a lot of times the deeper part, the part that goes down, happens because of rivers flowing through. But the Grand Canyon, for example, is also very wide, and that kind of erosion is caused by rainwater. So it's not only a very deep area, but it's also a very wide area. So erosion is something that happens very slowly over a long amount of time. When the dirt and rock is flowing with the water, we call that erosion. One way that you can think of that, if you make like a sand castle and you pour some water on it, then the sand castle would erode. You would see parts of it falling away, so that's erosion. The sand would move with the water away. So you can see in these pictures the shapes that are carved through the stone are really just these beautiful, wonderful, curved shapes. And if we're looking at these pictures and thinking about positive and negative space, which space would be the positive space and which space would be the negative space? So the positive space is the space that the rocks take up, and then the rivers or rainwater carve out the negative space to create the canyon. So the Grand Canyon, which is the last picture that you see here, is really, really big. And the three main types of sedimentary rocks that are found at the Grand Canyon are sandstone, shale, or sometimes we call that mudstone, and limestone. And you can kind of see the layers of rock. So layers of rock, when we see layers like that, a lot of times it's sedimentary rock is the kind of rock that has layers. So the layer that is at the bottom is actually the oldest stone, and the layers at the top are not quite as old. So it's like the oldest one is on the bottom and the youngest layer is at the top. So could you guys imagine that you could create a shape with your body that would kind of show how a canyon is created? Let's see if we can try it out. And I'm just gonna pick a number. Let's see if we could create a canyon with our body using positive and negative space, and we're gonna create it with 7 different shapes. So I'll create my 7 shapes, but if you have some ideas for some different shapes, you can create it your own way. All right, so we'll get standing up again. Now, a canyon starts off as flat land. So I want to create a shape that shows like a flat surface. So if I think something flat, I think of like a horizontal plane or horizontal line this way. So I'm going to see if I can use my arms, and I'm creating with positive space a kind of flatness at the very top. Remember, I want to use my whole body, so I'm using my arms, my legs, my head, and my torso. Okay, so this is my first shape. Now we're going to create a little dance by putting these shapes together. So when we're creating a dance, we need to remember what we're doing. So we try it again a couple times so that our bodies can remember it as well as our brains. They can work together. Teamwork. All right, so I had my legs like this, I had my fingers like this. So I'm creating a flat plane at the top, right? Kind of flatness with positive space. So now we're going to imagine, so for me, I'm imagining my river flowing towards you guys. All right, so if my river is flowing towards you, I can imagine that when it starts to erode, it might erode with my fingers like this. Okay, so I kind of changed that negative space that I've got going on here into like sort of a heart shape by doing down this. So I'm imagining the water going through that space. All right, so I've got shape number 1, then I've got shape number 2. Okay, so I'm going to think about my canyon not only getting deeper because of a river, but maybe also getting wider. So I'm going to pull this shape apart right here. So I'm kind of pulling my head this way. I've got a little angular space going on in here that I created. All right, so gotta shake out those arms. They get a little tired when we hold shapes for a long time. Okay, so I've got shape number 1, shape number 2, shape number 3. Okay, so it's getting deeper and wider. Now it will be hard to keep showing this with just that's negative space between my head and my hands. So I'm going to kind of change. My head wants to go the other way, so I'm going to change the shape. Aha, now I've got an open negative space right here, and I'm getting even lower. Oh my word. Okay, so going from the top, that means the beginning. I've got shape number 1, we've got our flat plane. Then we start some erosion. We start to see some erosion happening. We're getting wider as well as deeper. Oh man, what was my last one? My head changed. Oh, I think I forgot what I did with my arms. Shoot. All right, I would have to make that one up again. I know my head went this way. I got a little lower. I think something like this. This is it. This is gonna be my new one. Okay, so that's shape number 4. Okay, I go 1, I go 2, I go 3, I go 4, I go 1. Now it would happen much slower normally. 1, 2. So maybe when I create this dance, I could think about changing these shapes like super slow. That might be a really fun way to explore this idea, is by going super slow. Here's 4. All right, I'm gonna get even wider. Oh my gosh, here's 5. That's pretty easy for me to remember this one because it's a symmetrical shape. Feeling the burn, feeling the burn. All right, here we go. 1, then we go 2, then we go 3, then we go 4, then we go 5. Oh, I'm going for it. 6, okay. It's getting to be a pretty deep canyon. 6, how could I do 7? Really deep and wide. Oh, not today. 7. Okay, I think this is gonna be my last shape like this, 7. Let's put those together and we create them, and we create those different shapes. We can just change from one to another to make a whole dance. All right, so here we go. Here is my canyon erosion dance using positive and negative space. All right, so So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm gonna come down here, 4, 7. So that transition into that last one was a tricky transition. Okay. Maybe you guys created some different kinds of shapes to show erosion over time to create a canyon. Thanks so much for joining me today. Guys, don't forget we'll be posting a new lesson every day at 10 a.m. on the Acadiana Center for the Arts YouTube channel. We'll have lessons for kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, and each lesson is tied to the academic curriculum. You can also get these lessons on AOC as part of the Learn United program. It's accessible on Cox Channel 16 or LUS Channel 4. Kindergarten lessons air at 8 o'clock, and 1st and 2nd grade lessons air at 9. Some lessons will be in visual art and some will be in creative movement, so be sure to come back and make art with us tomorrow. If you're interested in supporting programs like this, visit Acadiana Center for the Arts.org. They are the nonprofit who manages the PACE Art program. Spread the word, share our videos, and keep making art. Thanks for joining us today, guys. Bye-bye.